Good evening, friends.
Good evening.
It is with joy that we come into your midst to speak with you for a few short moments. And we were listening to those words that were read from the old book. And we thought that perhaps we could give you a few ideas upon healing and try to answer a few of the questions that lie in your minds about it. The people of the time of Jesus had no modern remedies to fall back on when they became ill. Medicine has progressed so much over the last 1,000 years, and today you can wipe out so many of the diseases that were rife when Jesus walked the plains of Nazareth. And yet, even today, there are still diseases which defy all known knowledge. You have come up against the one that you term AIDS, and you find that there is cancer rife among your older population, and you begin to wonder, and you find yourself saying over and over again, why is this happening? Why is that happening? Why cannot spirit cure? And then you read in your magazines, in your spiritualist papers, about the cures that have been made by spiritualist healers. Perhaps you yourselves have had spirit healing for this condition or that. And sometimes you are cured, and other times it seems as though the work is in vain. But perhaps the most important thing that you must remember with regard to healing is that you are human. You possess a human body, and although that is only a garment for your soul, yet that body, while you are on the earth plane, is most important to you, and that body has inherited the various ills to which mankind is subject. When you look at the world of nature, you see that there is disease on all sides. You look at your crops in the fields, and you discover that there is such a thing as smut and rust, that mould can attack the harvest when it is gathered into the barns. And there are plagues which come to torment you from time to time. And sometimes your scientists can come up with a cure, only to find that before very long some other disease takes the place of the one that they have found a cure for. And with regard to the crops that you grow, at long last man is beginning to look back to the world of nature, to realize that although you have developed crops from the beginning that are completely different from those in the wild, yet there are still the wild beginnings there. And those wild plants, although they don't yield as your modern crops do, yet they have stamina. They have the power to withstand a lot of the modern diseases. And so at long last, your scientists are beginning to realize that they have got to go back to nature to find something which will give your hybrid crops the hardiness which their cousins in the wild have. With regard to humankind, you have got to remember that there are many diseases that have affected humanity from the beginning. Some of them caused by wrong living, by wrong food, by taking no heed of the simple laws of hygiene, and even by keeping yourselves so spotless that you do not develop immunity to some of the diseases that devastate your world at the present time. And you have resort to vaccinations of one sort and another. But do you think your ancestors were any healthier than you are? In the Gospels you read about Jesus performing the healing miracles. But have you ever stopped to think that when he walked the earth plane, he used many different methods of healing? Even in the Old Testament, there are accounts of the healing of lepers, and the remedies that were given to go and bathe in the water of the Jordan. Jesus anointing the eyes of the man with the mud, and other cases where he just looked at them and said, "Be well," and they were. You can find parallels for all of these in your modern days. And yet, over and over again, you find that there are illnesses which do not seem to be able to be cured by spiritual healing. And you say to yourself, why? Perhaps one of the reasons is that man is beginning to lose touch with nature. By his civilization, he has crowded himself together in cities. He has used the products of the earth, products that took centuries to achieve. He has been using them up at a very fast rate. And now he is beginning to realize that he is damaging the atmosphere. You must often think to yourself, is there going to be any alteration? Will you be able to stop the destruction of the earth by man's greed and selfishness? We come to you in love because we want to reassure you on so many counts. Of course, there will always be illness in your world. There will always be disease that cannot be cured by any means that you can lay your hands upon. But that is because when you come to the earth plane, you come in order to learn lessons. And some of those lessons can only be learned through suffering. If you were always perfectly well, if you went through life without any illness at all, if you didn't know what it was to have a headache, or to feel sick, or to succumb to any of the childhood illnesses that are so prevalent, how would you have sympathy for those who do? It is because there is so much illness in the world that the sympathy, the help and the love that you can generate is so important. Remember, those of you who are healers, that even if you cannot heal the body, you are healing the soul, and you cannot measure the effect that your healing has upon those who come to you for help. It is as important to comfort those who are dying as it is to care for those who are living. It is as important for you to give your love to those who are the victims of their own self-indulgence, as it is to those who seem to have contracted illness through no fault of their own. Your world today is very different from the one that Jesus walked in. There are so many things that were happening then that do not happen today, and there is a lot that happens today that was unthought of in the days of Jesus of Nazareth. We often think, when we listen to the words read from the old book, how true some of them are, and yet how altered they have been over the centuries. But the main thing to remember is that in the Bible, the message that Jesus came to give, the message of love, the message of doing good to those who despitefully use you, the message of forgiving your enemies, the message of giving love to all, whatever their condition, realizing that within each one of them there is a part of God. That is the important thing. That is what comes out of the Gospels, the love that Jesus had for all the people that he met. It made no difference to him whether it was the woman taken in adultery or whether it was the thief dying at his side upon the cross. Jesus gave them both his love. He gave them both his assurance that there would be life eternal for them. When you read your Bible, remember, you haven't got to take it for absolute truth. We will not use the term gospel truth. But you have got to look for the meaning behind it. You have got to look at it from the point of view of Jesus, who could love. You have got to realize that those who are criminals in your world, the thugs and the robbers and the thieves and the murderers, that they are all children of God. They are all your brothers and sisters. They all have the spark of God within them, and someday will unite with God, even as you do, as you will. Do not flinch from life. Do not try to avoid the troubles that beset you. Do not sit down and revile God because you have come across a difficulty in your pathway. Realize that you are privileged, partly because you live in the Western world, but chiefly because you know something about the truth of spirit return. You know about the eternity of the soul. Look upon these things and rejoice. If your path is difficult, then it is because you have got the strength to cope with it. And it is because in those difficulties you will learn the lessons that you came to earth to learn, to master. Each one of you, whatever your station in life, has come with just that purpose, to build your character, to rub off some of the corners that are there, to learn through experience, through the teaching of life itself, so that when the time comes that you leave your body behind, you will go on into spirit, wiser, kinder, more loving, a step nearer towards God. We are often asked why some people sail through life so easily and simply, whereas others seem to have to struggle every step of the way. Remember that you are aware of things today, aware in a way that was impossible when Jesus walked the earth plane. There was no television, no newspapers, no radio, nothing to bring news of what was happening in other parts of the earth to that little country of Palestine. Perhaps news was brought by word of mouth and passed along from one to the other, and in the passing it would have got distorted and altered. Today, when there is tragedy anywhere in your world, it is flashed upon your screens. Good news is so very seldom seen, and yet there is good in your world. From what you read, you may think that your younger generation consists entirely of thugs and hooligans, and yet there are thousands and thousands, in fact millions of young people who are walking the straight and narrow path of love and service. There is idealism among the young. They sometimes get impatient with the older people because, being young, they want things to happen so quickly. But change takes time. And even though you cannot see the difference in your earth plane from the standpoint that you are in your body, yet if you could step to one side and look at earth with the eyes of the Spirit, you would see that among the darkness there are points of light that are glowing ever brighter. We come to you with love because we want to help you. We do not want to tell you what to do, what you should not do. You have got the power within you to achieve it for your own self. And each one of you, being a part of God, has got that too within you. The part that you term your soul, your spirit, the part of you which will go on when you have finished with your body and you leave it behind as you pass on into another stage of life. You will have a body in the next world, but it won't be a body of matter, but a body of spirit. We cannot give you details of what you will see when you arrive there, because each one of you will see something different. You will meet your loved ones, yes, but you will not necessarily stay with them. You have got to work when you get to spirit, in the same way that you have got to work while you are in a body of matter. And during that work, you will know how far you have succeeded in your aims, the aims that you came to earth with, and that you will take with you when you leave earth behind. So we leave you with our love, praying that each one of you will acknowledge the Spirit within you and will know that that Spirit is love. Good night, and God bless you all.